And so that's it. The second round of the BoyleSports Irish Greyhound Derby is done and dusted. 8 more fantastic displays here at Shelbourne Park. As always, I'm joined by Kevin Hennessy of BoyleSports. Kevin, firstly, it's hard to follow up on Friday's action, but I think we got there. Some brilliant performances, some really tight finishes, and all in all, just a thoroughly satisfactory night in this year's Derby once again.
Yeah, it really was. And tonight there was a couple of, especially in some of the earlier heats, there was some real good buckles, and on paper some heats of death, and it turned out to be that way. We've lost some high-profile runners tonight, but yeah, look, some of the displays last night, Coulivanny Hoff in particular, was a massive billing, but we definitely had some that lived up to that hype again tonight. None more so than BALLINABOla, who we'll touch on a little bit later.
Some high-profile dogs in second spot. Of course, 1 or 2 of your punters will be collecting up on the offer.
They will, yeah. Money back if your dog finishes second. It's been a costly one so far, the best one we've ever done, and if you haven't availed already, it's available online and for shop customers. So get your few quid on.
We'll start from the start. Heat 9. This was the heat of the Derby thus far. There's no question about it. When you look at the 6 runners on paper, each and every one of them pretty much an aeroplane. Very, very fast group of dogs. We knew that we knew that 2 or 3 high-profile names were going to go out, no question about it. But the big 3 in the market were, of course, 2 in a row, Kildare and Born Warrior, and we lost 2 of them. You know, I sort of intimated it was very possible during the week, and that was the case. I actually thought it would be Born Warrior that might suffer if he failed to hit the front, but tonight he was sharper at boxes, and that was the key. He flew into the corner. He is rapid to the third bend. Really impressive display. 17:04. Fine display by Born Warrior. In behind them, Marie's Wedding. She had nearly gone under the radar as far as this race was concerned. Like, she's a bitch of 27.99 in her card. Big race in defeat off the last bend. I thought she might have just got there, but no. Born Warrior straightened up and kicked again, and a certain Barefoot Supremo running a absolute miller in third. What he did to fast greyhounds down the back straight was stunning, and I still think there's better to come. I'm sure you'll be able to enlighten us on that, but all in all, it was an amazing heat. But then to lose the likes of a Low Hammond, Barefoot, or 2 in a row, and Kildare, so disappointing.
Yeah, 2 English Derby finalists gone in the same heat, and that was the race. It looked on paper that it could happen. It was set up. You had a load of early pacers. You had 2 in a row. You had Kildare. You had Born Warrior. Marie's Wedding, who I was slightly a little bit disappointed with her run last week, producing one of her best. The inside
makes a difference to her. She can get around. She doesn't have to worry about dogs up or in her.
Yeah, definitely, and it was a massive step in the right direction from her. Huge performance back in second, but to lose 2 English Derby finalists and 2 in a row who'd been favoured for the Derby for probably 6 or 8 months in the build-up to it. Obviously lost favouritism in the last couple of weeks, but for a long period of time he was top of the betting. So this was a heat of death on paper. It turned out to be, but take nothing away from Born Warrior. I met the Hanlons over the far side and Jennifer O'Donnell after the race, and exactly what you said, they were most impressed with, that he trapped. He hadn't been doing that consistently so far. He did it tonight. We know what he'll do to the third bend. That's 17:04. I was actually surprised at how he'd even go a little bit quicker when he trapped the way he can, because I've no doubt he'll break 17 seconds to that third bend. So there might even be a little bit more left in the tank there. Marie's Wedding, a huge step in the right direction for her. Draw, as you said, getting her beloved trap 1 box. If she gets it again, she done nothing wrong in a very good heat there tonight. Supremo, I was over the moon with. Again, like Born Warrior, I was just delighted to see him trap. You summed him up quite well. A lot of people say he's a dog that lacks early. He doesn't lack early.
He just tends to leave it in traps.
Exactly. He's just been a poor trapper. He's never sort of anticipated the break from me. He always sort of stood up and just waited. Tonight he did, and he came away running. He got a fair belt for his troubles. But if he can keep starting like that, yeah, like what he done down the back and coming home, we know he has that in his arsenal. But it's getting him to the bend is the key.
Yeah, it was a tremendous heat. You know, all in all, it is worth pointing out Born Warriors now has 3 or 4 runs in a row from those 550-yard boxes. Yeah. I think it's safe to say he's acclimatising to them, and I don't think we've seen the best of him just yet. I think there's better to come from him. On to Heat 10. Here, all about Ted. We said last week that he probably wasn't the greyhound he was last year. He's improved tonight by nearly 2 lengths. Did everything right. Obviously there was trouble in the inside. Beepers Chris Edge straight in, and 1, 2 and 3 were just left with no chance, and it became a 3-dog affair pretty shortly after that. All about Ted comfortably cleared the bend. Stories Cascio turned second. We think he's a very fast pup, both you and I. He really couldn't make an impression on All About Ted, who galloped all the way to the line, of course. there's an argument to suggest he's a better 5.75 dog these days. And yep, he ran right to the line. Patient Crusader back in third. But All About Ted, Peter Cronin would be delighted. 17.28. Like, he's still not pulling up trees to the third bend, but he's running well.
Yeah, he is, and this was a real good boost to Peter, especially after the unfortunate Kildare going out in the heat previous. But like, what more can you say about this dog? He's just you'd love to be connected with him. He never seems to run a bad race. Like you, we've talked about stories, Cashew. I thought it was game on, race on off the second bend. When he turned close, I said, this lad, younger pretender, might just be able to put All About Ted to the sword, but he just kept digging, and this dog is great 5.75 for All About Ted. He was never going to be an easy dog to stop when he gets to the front. Look, it's brilliant that he's gone and he's unbeaten in the opening 2 heats. Is he the force of all? Probably not, but it's brilliant to see him still putting in wins. Stories, Cash Out. Just keep an eye on this dog. I'm not saying it for this year. Like, he doesn't even look the finished article over the far side. I was talking to his trainer Murty Latty, and he even believes that he won't be a proper dog till next year. But he's a dog that I'd like to keep on the right side of. I think he's immense ability. And Patient Crusader ran well at a big price last week, backs it up again tonight, and is into the hat for the third round. Yeah,
into the hat is right. Storage Cash, it's only November 20 whelp. We will be talking about one or two November 20 whelps later on. On to Heat 11 here, Vincenzo. I was expecting a masterful display. I was expecting him to hit the front early, go on to land the spoils pretty comfortably. I thought he'd do a big run. It was a good run. It was a workmanlike display, but like, Droopy's next one is a really hot performer. She flashed out of trap one. She actually led out the winning line first time up, but Vincenzo joined her into the corner. The two of them bumped. He quickly regained his momentum, went to the front, and once doing so, he'll stay 5.75, 600 yards. It was a fine display. 29.45, and we know he has that 29.27 in his locker. He'll probably keep coming forward during this stake, and he's still there in the hat, and he's not a dog you want to be taking on.
No, definitely not. I think he is as fast as anything. He's as fast as the best of them. But he just throws away 2 lengths off that last bend, doesn't he? He just runs so wide. It's violently off the last bend he swings out. He costs himself a length or two there. Yeah, I was quite shocked when I saw the next one going up on the inside, and a 3.54 sectional. It's not like she flashed from the boxes and just fluked it. It was more that the others just didn't really come away racing. The sectional would suggest, at least. So he did leave a length or more in the boxes. You'd like to see him go to the corner a little bit quicker. Now, we're being nitpicky here just because of the calibre dog we're talking about. We know how good he is.
Neither of us would have been surprised if he'd done a 29.20 on the bunny. Bang, second favourite for the Derby.
Exactly. When we were talking last night, can anything do, whether it was on air or off air, what else could do a Hoffa run? There was 2 dogs we named, BALLINABOLA and maybe Vincenzo, if everything went according to plan. So we're being nitpicky on a dog that done 29.45, but that's just how highly we rate him. But
maybe just Pat Guilfoyle has a plan. And I think he is a dog. Well, he showed in the Shelbourne Champion 550 that he can progress through a competition, and I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah, very much so. And take nothing away. Like, next one went up and was level with him at the second bend. Like,
an Oaks finalist and a hugely fast lady, no question about it.
And she comes home well, so like, she to hold her with relative ease was a fair performance all the same. And then Ring a Bella Boy, another lightly raced sort, only having his 12th race tonight. It was a huge price last week, a huge price again, and Shane Murphy again into the third round.
I was shocked. I have to tell you now, I don't think I'd be putting huge prices in the card about him next week, no matter the company. I thought he showed loads of pace. He's only beaten 3 lengths behind Droopy's next one. Like, these are 2, as we've described him, 2 absolute powerhouses out front, and he's only beaten a further 3 lengths. He's an April 20, but he's little mileage on the clock. He's certainly one to keep an eye on going forward. Whether he win a Derby or not, I'm not sure, but he's certainly one to keep on the radar. Heat 12, and here this was the Late Show. This was getting up on the line. Certainly for 530 yards, it looked like Crypto Punk was going to land the spoils, but for the second week running, last week it was for second spot, this week it's for first spot. He was picked up by a Mert Lahey trained runner. This time it was Stories PEEWEE, who absolutely came out of the clouds. That's what he does. We know all about him. He spent time in the UK. He's back from Nathan Hunt's. He ran well over there. He's running well over here. He sort of found his way sort of into second or third down the back straight, and then once doing so, you knew he was going to close, but he closed so fast in those last 50 strides. Crypto Punk just narrowly denied. Back in third was 6 Kilgraney Clang, who I thought showed loads of boot. Didn't happen for Rahamofo. I think a switch back to Bitch Company will really suit her. She just doesn't seem comfortable. Ross Damon didn't happen for, and Karen Toole wasn't too far off the pace early, but he just couldn't hold on to his position. Stories PEEWEE though, he's there. He's in the third round of a Derby.
Yeah, very much so. A real race of a tale of 2 halves, and I was glad because everyone in the country is probably into Kilkenny tipster competition, and I'm not doing so well. But I did go with Stories PEEWEE in this one. Just he's been a brilliant servant, and
it's a bragging right situation.
Yeah. Well, you've been bragging since we started these about your big price runner, so I said I'd get one in. But yeah, look, I love the dog. He reminds me so much of Beach Avenue. They just keep progressing through competitions. Like, they only have to beat 3 dogs to qualify most nights, and most nights there's a bit of trouble at the bend. They turn 4th or 5th, and you're not going to stop them from passing at least 1 or 2 most nights. So I thought down the back straight was a matter of how far. However, going around the bottom 2 bends, I was wondering like what was going on, and then he kicked off the last bend, and like you said, he left it as late as he possibly could. But he's a wonderful dog. Crypto Punk done absolutely nothing wrong.
17.09 to the third
17.09, 346 is doing 29.56 maybe.
50,
exactly.
Yeah, 55, 56. But when you consider tonight, a lot of the heats were won in 29.60s.
Yeah.
You know, this was 29.54. Like, this was a high quality run by the runner-up.
Yeah.
But for Stories PEEWEE to come off the pace like that just goes to show the strength of his engine.
Yeah, and we said it last week. Like, he came from a mile off Bocco's Budstead last week, and we put it down to maybe Bocco's Budstead was battling up front, and was that the exaggerated why he came home so strong. But this dog, since he's come home from England, has been rejuvenated, and he's put in 2 cracking runs. He'll be a big price again next week. I'm not saying he'll win next week, but he's so hard to keep out of the first 3. Murty has him absolutely flying. Kilgraney Clang, we talk about Thomas every year up here with one coming under the radar. This lad just fits the bill, doesn't he? He's showing loads of boot, loads of pace. He's yet to win a round. He's just qualifying their way in 3rd. He'll be a fancy price again next week. Don't be surprised if he lands in the quarter final.
No, I certainly won't be. Moving on to heat 13. A certain Ballinabola Ed.
Yeah.
He missed the kick last week completely at 368. Like, he didn't flash from traps tonight, but it was clear after about 3 strides that he was going to win. Gort Kelly Nestor absolutely pinged out, led into the corner, 346. Ballinabola Ed took him on the corner. You think that's it, he's going to go on and win by 6 or 8 lengths. It was, like, don't get me wrong, Ballinabola Ed's fastest run tonight, 29.27. If we hadn't seen Hoffa last night, he's gone even a shorter price favourite for Derby. But we saw Kula have any Hoffa last night. But then Gort Kelly Nestor is with, what, 2.5 lengths off him at the line. Unbelievable run in defeat. But, you know, Ballinabola Ed, he's doing it right, and I think Pat Buckley will be delighted with that run.
Yeah, he's all class, isn't he? Like, we spoke about the supreme display last week, and I'm sure Pat enjoyed it, and Connections enjoyed what he did last week, but they don't want to be doing that many rounds of a derby. You can't do that many rounds of a derby. So I think just to get him away racing, he didn't lead in the opening strides, but he came away on terms. He showed that pace into the corner, and he just went about his business and done 29.27. Watching the race, you probably didn't think he was doing the run, but we know how good Gort Kelly Nestor is. A little bit flat by his own standards maybe last week. I thought he'd nearly win last week. Didn't happen for him. We
had sort of suggested that maybe just that's it, like, you know, the engine's gone, the legs aren't quite what they were. I think that was his career best run tonight. You know, he's 29.62 best before tonight. He certainly bettered it.
Yeah, he did. And Andrew might have been listening to us, because Andrew was mad about this dog. Turns this dog out in fantastic condition, and he's not afraid to race him. Like, this lad was running in the tip in Limerick, in Thurles. He runs around the country, and he brings him up here to Shelbourne for the Derby, and he turns it on every time. And he ran so well in the Derby last year, and on the basis of tonight's run, you'd have to say he could. Who's to say he couldn't do it again this year? But Ballinabola, all class. What we said about him last week still stands tonight again. If I was on him, I'd be much happier just that he got away racing tonight. I'm sure he can come away a bit quicker. I'm sure he can, even as silly as it might sound, I'm sure he can go quicker than even 29.27.
Yeah, I think that's no problem to him.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, so that's no problem. Of all the dogs in the Derby, he's the one that could do the 29-second run.
Very much.
It's worth pointing out, Gort Kelly Nestor beat Tulloch Raven 7 lengths in the Limerick qualifier, and everyone was sort of going, well, that was just a strange run. You know, that form won't stack up. Tonight, he beats him 5 lengths. He sort of nearly confirmed that form. So, you know, I think Tulloch Raven's a very, very fast young greyhound. But when you have Ballinabola Ed and Gort Kelly Nestor, you're really racing out front. I think he just went, whoa, what's happening here? Do you know? And I think we'll see much better from him in the future. And I think, you know, whether he'll progress, I don't know, but he'll certainly be a dog I'll be keeping an eye on juvenile Derby. On to heat 14. Here was Anna Bailey, and this was a strange type of affair. Anna Bailey wins in 29.64, but there's a suggestion that if Ireland's Own hadn't been in the race, it could easily have gone around in 29.50 or faster, leading all. Led to the corner, Ireland's Own goes inside, stays that middle of wide path, all the time. That's his running. Held up Anna Bailey, who then had to battle to get back to the front into the third bend. Went on to win well for Rachel Wheeler. There had been floods of support for this fellow last week, so they clearly think he can run. Tonight he proved it. Second was Oak Front Cadet, who was a bad last going into the third bend. Got up on the line to be second, and at Lacazette, well, Kevin Hennessy, you're chief of the fan club. He ran a blinder, from trap 6 to qualify. Didn't happen for Bobsleigh Dream. She tried to get going a couple of times, just ran into bother. Everywhere she went, she seemed to find a bit of bother. Well Met didn't get loose, and as a result, they went out. Ireland's own also going out, but I thought it was a fine display by Anna Bailey. Still only a pup, September 20.
Yeah, very much so. We're talking about these youngsters, and this is another one. Wouldn't have been high on my list coming into the Derby. Not a greyhound that I knew a whole lot about, but really caught the eye. Real battler, isn't he? Like he never gave in. It was a real duel all the way down to that third bend, and he gave as much as he could and got through at that point and went on to win like 17:33 and 29:64. Like he's coming home too. Do you know what I mean? Like he's not going to be easy.
And that's
to
after
back.
bother.
That's what I mean. Like he's a real. He can go to the third bend quicker, and he's coming home very good as well. So this dog, like you said, heavily backed last week in a real good race against the likes of We Can Dream. Backed it up tonight. That was a real good display. Oak Front Cadet, just an absolute monster coming home at the Lacazette. I'm mad about the dog. He never runs a bad race in my book. I don't know how far he can go. I hope he stays going. Bobsleigh Dream, probably the story of the race. Just slightly eased going into the first bend. Cost her a bit of a ground and a bit of positioning. Looked like she was challenging again to the third bend, potentially going to win the race. Got trouble again, and unfortunately, having swapped sides up the home straight again, unfortunately goes out.
Yeah. On to Heat 15. Yeah, a November 20 whelp, closely related to Pastana, Liam Dowling, BALLYMAC Finn. He just has a lovely profile. He's a really, really exciting greyhound. We'd seen plenty of him. He'd run very well in the Lee Strand. He came to Shelbourne Park, caught the eye on a couple of occasions. Last week, stunning run behind Good Cody. And the punters latched onto him tonight. I think he went off 8 to 11, 4 to 6. And after 2 strides, he was at 10 on chance. This was most emphatic. 3:44, 17:01, 29:36. Better to come. Just a really exciting prospect.
Yeah, this lad, look, he even has the markings of Fair One, doesn't he? He looks like BALLYMAC Fair One, and when BALLYMAC Fair One came into the English Derby a year or two ago now, whichever year it was when he went off favourite, he had a very similar profile to this lad. Didn't know a whole lot about them, but like Shane and Liam, they don't put these dogs into this Derby just for the crack. They only put in ones that they feel are up to that level. And this lad, if Tullig's surname hadn't have been in the Lee Strand, we'd know a lot more, or people would be talking about BALLYMAC Finn a lot more. He just ended up being in a Lee Strand in a year where there was another superstar in it, and maybe surname was just a little bit further ahead in his development potentially.
Worth pointing out that this breed, goes back to Killavany Pet, BALLYMAC Pets yourself. We've seen a few of them. And certainly Pastana came under that umbrella. It did take those 10, 12 races for him to really find himself. BALLYMAC Finn is finding himself, and if he hasn't fully found himself, it means there's more to come, and that's a scary proposition for every dog in the Derby, not just the dogs around 29. Like we're talking Killavany, Hoffa and BALLINABOLA Ed. They want to watch themselves with this fella.
Hugely, because I think I think if it had been the first or second heat, he's definitely breaking 17 to the third bend, and I think he goes quicker. That's just a personal opinion. I just think later on the card, to me, he blew me away tonight. Like Hoodoo Brown in a 5-dog race getting loose, he's still probably 3 or 4 lengths back off him, and there's not many dogs in a 5-dog race that are going to be the likes of a Hoodoo Brown, but a lovely 1-2 for the Dowling camp. BALLYMAC Finn, he's going to be in the top 3 or 4 in the betting of the Derby, I'd suggest at this stage. Fully exposed now, a real exciting type. BALLYMAC Matt was another one that sort of came in with a similar different running style, but a similar profile. Liam and Shane to keep unearthing these gems.
Matt could go to a corner and don't you worry about that.
Exactly, and Fernandez as well. Like he one of those breed. They're fierce fast, and they can keep progressing. Like this was a real good heat on paper. Like we lost Skywalker Silla and Dex Guinness, even in a 5-dog race. It was a tasty.
He was just a length behind Hoodoo Brown. We have to mention Hoodoo Brown, because he's just absolutely took off in the second half of the race. He's some engine. He's yet to get trap 1 in the Derby. Didn't make a difference tonight. He gets a clear running behind, and you saw what he's capable of. How far can he go? Like, does he need the look of the draw? Like, he's going to have nights where a Barefoot Supremo's in front of him in third or second down the back straight.
I'd still be worried.
Struggle to pick up him.
Well, I'd still be worried. I wouldn't like to see him turning now on Supremo's tail now going down the back or anything, but I don't think there's a faster dog in the Derby coming home, and that includes the likes of Beach Avenue. I know we've got a couple of Beach Avenue, Supremo. We talked about Stories, PEEWEE, but the gears that this dog has is just incredible. maybe the draw is dependent. I think he probably would be a better dog from 1. I just don't really think it matters. I think it matters more about what happens at the corner. I think if he gets in bother at the corner, which he can do because he's a huge dog, he's 86 pound weight.
Yeah.
It's not like he can duck and dive through and spot a gap. Like, he's a big framed dog, so getting a clean run at the first bend, but once he gets loose at the second bend, just watch out, because if he's within 7 or 8 lengths, he still has a great chance of qualifying.
I met Mossy O'Donnell before racing tonight, who jointly owns it with Liam Dowling, and just seemed absolutely chuffed to himself.
Yeah.
You know, David Derby runner, and he's coming back for the round of 48, as they say. So, you know, best of luck to him. I hope Hoodoo Brown is in the last 24, and so to Heat 16. The final round, or the final heat of the round, and on Friday night we were declaring Callaway Pro-Am a hugely exciting youngster, much like the BALLYMAC Finns of this world, and you know, here we are talking about a double for Dennis Murphy and Owen McKenna. Callaway Masters, he's just a greyhound that is absolutely flying at present. You know, he had a decent card up to this point, but just the last month and a half he has just taken off, and tonight didn't get as fast a start. He does 3:54. He runs hard to the third. He does a 17:38. Looked like he was going a bit faster, but he stayed on really strongly. 12:23 home. Just a really likeable display by another son of Droopy Sydney. I haven't counted them up, but it just seems like every race I'm talking about a son of Droopy Sydney. But so impressive, Callaway Masters from the front. He just one of those dogs where, listen, I don't think he'll win a Derby, but he's certainly one that can go another round or two. Second was Clona Blue, who once again showed massive pace to come out of the clouds, grabbed second on the run in, another son of Droopy Sydney, and back in third was Savannah Hero, another son of Droopy Sydney. Not too bad, these Sydneys. Anyway, Callaway Masters, a tremendous winner for Dennis and Owen. Yeah,
I wonder who'll be sire of the year. Look, Callaway Masters, we've done this, Ian, for 5 or 6 years, and we both have a similar opinion on this, that a dog with confidence, and when they get into confident mood, they can just go above and beyond themselves, and he fits the bill. He's in October 19, he's not a youngster, but he rattled up 4 or 5 wins on the bounce over different distances here prior to the Derby. Completely missed the kick last week, but still ran on fierce well, and tonight he got away running. 3:54 would suggest that there wasn't a whole lot of early pace in the race, but once he was able to get up on the inside and clear them into the third bend, 17:38 to the third bend, isn't pulling up trees, but off a tardy enough start, but that is really coming home late on in the night as well. Another dog who has got reasonably good early pace, reasonably good back straight pace, but he's coming home very, very strong. He's not one that if he's in a qualifying position at the third bend, I'd say you're fairly safe.
You don't want one behind him off the third bend trying to qualify.
I don't want Supremo 3 off him at the third bend. Yeah, I know what you're hinting at. Yeah, exactly. But and then Clona Blue, like, this dog caught my eye hugely. Like, I was watching the race, I thought going down the back it was a real good battle between Callaway Masters and Savannah Hero, another dog who I thought would stay really, really well, and Clona Blue was running all over him into the third bend. Had to check slightly at that point. I don't think he'd have got by Callaway Masters, but he was running a huge race. A dog only having his 14th race, ran behind Callaway Pro-Am last week, only 2 lengths behind him. That form has been stacked up, so another one of those who's not the high profile runners, could be a fancy price next week. Don't be surprised if he qualifies again. Savannah Hero, bags of ability. I think it just needs to be in front early. I think it needs to be in front of the second bend to see its best form, but not beaten too far into a 960 again.
Yeah, Savannah Hero is very similar to Fernandez, his kind of companion. You know, there's a big run in them, and you don't want to be against them the night they get loose, because they can really, really motor. But no, tonight it was Callaway Masters who got out in front, 29.61 as you say, and that's it. 16 heats of the second round of the BoyleSports Irish Greyhound Derby. So what wins the Derby?
There's plenty of them. I'm still hoping it comes from the black and amber kennel, but I'm saying that for the 5 or 6 years we've done it and we haven't got to win it yet. But look, it's a cracking Derby. It's still wide open. I know people will say we're just saying that to big up the Derby, but we're not. Like, if you said at the start of the Derby that, I don't know, I didn't look at the top 20 of the betting, but at least half of them are gone, and we're only down 2 rounds, so it just goes to show you, don't ever count your chickens. There's a long way to go, Ian, you know that, and there's plenty of people going home tonight that I'm sure still are dreaming big. Yeah, 48 people going into the draw for the second round, 48 brilliant, fast greyhounds that are in the peak of their powers, and I can't wait. Next week, the first night, we're going to see them all in the one night, and we'll definitely see the Derby winner next Saturday night. Yeah, we will.
We certainly will. Well, that's it from Shelbourne Parks, late into the evening now. We're actually waiting for the trap draw, believe it or not. That will tell its own story. But that's it from us at Shelbourne Park this weekend. Don't forget, the last 48 in action, all in the one night, next Saturday night in the BoyleSports Irish Greyhound Derby. Best of luck to anyone who has a runner remaining.